For decades, language education operated on the assumption that learning a language meant memorizing abstract rules to unlock a hardwired grammar module inside the human brain. This view was famously championed by theorists like Noam Chomsky, seen here. But treating language like a set of mathematical formulas rarely produces fluent speakers. Students learn how to conjugate verbs on paper, yet struggle to use those same words in a spontaneous conversation. In 2003, cognitive scientist Michael Tomasello formalized a different model, known as usage-based learning theory. Tomasello argued that we do not acquire language through abstract modules. Instead, we learn by experiencing language and using it to communicate meaning. Fluency is the accumulation of thousands of these linguistic experiences over time. Moving the classroom from teaching about English rules to teaching students how to actively use English requires shifting the focus away from static textbooks toward the dynamic interactions between the people in the room. To understand how this works, imagine walking through a field of tall grass. A single trip leaves no trace, but walking the exact same route every day eventually carves a clear, permanent path. Neural pathways map directly to this physical repetition. A student's linguistic pathways strengthen when they encounter and use a specific pattern thousands of times. Frequency is the engine of language acquisition. While traditional teaching treats language like building blocks to be glued together, the brain actually processes language in chunks. A student learns a complete unit, like "I don't know," as a single unit of leaning, long before they understand the technical rules behind auxiliary verbs. These chunks anchor in the brain when a student has a genuine, immediate need to communicate. The brain absorbs language most effectively when it is used to satisfy a real-world purpose. Because meaning and frequency dictate how we learn, repetitive, out-of-context textbook drills often run counter to the way the human brain actually acquires speech. In the 1960s, a volunteer named John Wade traveled to the highlands of New Guinea to open a primary school deep in the rainforest. During the journey, Wade's pack horse fell into a flooded ravine, washing away every single teaching aid and textbook he owned. Left with no materials, Wade introduced English by relying entirely on the children's immediate needs and the physical world in front of them. Lessons emerged from practical survival tasks. The students learned math by estimating crop yields from ears of corn, and language by discussing how much land they needed to clear for planting. When Wade finally received a copy of the official government syllabus, he realized he had already taught almost every required item on the list, simply by following the authentic interests of his students. Wade discovered that he could uncover the syllabus organically through real-world tasks, arriving at the same curriculum targets without the rigid progression of a textbook. Relying on prescribed resources can blind a teacher to the most powerful learning tool available: the immediate, real-world needs of the students in the room. Wade's experience illustrates the core of teaching unplugged, a central pillar of the SKOLA method. In this model, the only essential raw materials are the teacher, the students, their shared experiences, and basic tools like a whiteboard. The focus shifts away from worksheets towards a conversation-driven environment, prioritizing human interaction over paper-based exercises. This requires responsive teaching. Teachers must actively listen to what students are trying to express and then step in to help them articulate those thoughts clearly. Minimizing prescriptive materials creates the space necessary for emergent language to surface organically during the lesson. To give structure to this unplugged philosophy, SKOLA uses task-based language teaching, or TBLT. Standard grammar instruction is like studying the physics of balance. TBLT is like getting on the bicycle and pedaling. You learn by doing it and only analyze the mechanics after feeling the wobble. In a TBLT lesson, students attempt a communicative task using whatever English they already know before they receive formal instruction. Linguist Rod Ellis defines a task through 4 criteria. First, the primary focus must be on meaning. Second, there must be a communication gap, where students have a genuine reason to share information. Third, learners must use their existing linguistic resources to solve the problem. And fourth, the task must have a clear, tangible outcome beyond practicing language. For example, a group might be given 20 minutes to plan a weekend trip to London on a strict budget of £200. The task functions as a diagnostic tool. As the students work, the teacher can identify exactly which linguistic chunks they are missing, allowing for highly targeted instruction. SKOLA operationalizes TBLT within its project-based curriculum using a bespoke three-step framework. Step 1 is hook and check. This links the morning topic to the afternoon excursion. The teacher checks what learners already know. Step 2 is the teach phase, beginning with the task cycle. Students work to achieve their goal. During this phase, the teacher steps back completely. They do not interrupt or correct. They observe the students and take notes on the emergent language, the specific words or structures the students are struggling to find. Once the task concludes, the teacher moves to the language focus. They step in to formally teach the exact vocabulary or grammar the students needed to bridge their communication gaps. This ensures the lesson is responsive to the students' immediate needs. Step 3 is test and apply. The teacher verifies understanding through concept check questions. Finally, the students immediately repeat or improve the original task, applying the newly learned language chunks to their specific project. This cycle transforms theoretical grammar into immediately useful tools that solve real-world problems. Everything in the weekly curriculum is reverse engineered from the Friday presentation. The morning input and afternoon excursions interlock to build the students' capability for this showcase. They apply their emergent language in complex, real-world environments before presenting their results. Assessment priorities shift away from traditional exam scores. Instead, teachers celebrate communicative success, confidence, and teamwork. Progress is tracked through age-appropriate tools, such as daily reflective journals for older students, and curated visual portfolios for the youngest learners. Tracking the successful use of emergent language over a week provides a more accurate measure of true fluency than a standardized grammar test. The mechanical structure of TBLT relies entirely on the behavioral and emotional culture of the school. This ecosystem is governed by 3 foundational values. First, being ready. Second, being safe. And third, being kind. Learning requires a predictable environment. Teachers prioritize praise for positive behavior and utilize quiet de-escalation routines to maintain a calm, stable atmosphere. Restorative practices ensure when conflicts arise, the focus remains on support and growth over punitive sanctions. Learning a new language involves significant social and emotional risk. Students will take those risks when supported by an environment grounded in safety and empathy.